First of all, as I've said out in the lobby, my name is Ken Newman. I'm the National Director for the Steelworkers Union, also the co-chair of NIDMAR. And I'll have some opening comments along with Viator Camray, who's also the employer co-chair. For those of you that are wondering, as you can see, there's some cameras in here. We want to begin by thanking Shaw Media, who is doing this live, which is going to then be broadcast for a feed to go throughout the world in regards to the internet. So ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all welcome you. It's an honor to stand here before you for the official opening of the Pacific Coast University. I also want to recognize the very broad range of stakeholders that we have. We have employers, we have government, we have labor, we have the workers' compensation boards, and we also have the return to work advocates. I also want to say a thank you to our national and international guests that are here with us today. This historic event is without precedent in Canada or abroad in terms of this university's development and mandate. As we all know, injuries and illness transcend all boundaries. We have witnessed the terrible impact that injuries and disabilities can have on persons' ability to make a living. I want to share some facts with you. Over 2 million workers are killed worldwide on the job annually. In Canada, more than 1,000 workers are killed on the job every year. 60 million workers suffer permanent job-related disabilities worldwide annually. In Canada, approximately 30,000 permanent job-related disabilities occur annually in Canada. The direct cost to workers, employers, and society is estimated at 4% of the global GDP. In Canada, the direct cost for workers' compensation is in excess of $5.5 billion. Whether it is a friend, a coworker, a relative, or a stranger, injury and disability can mean loss of job, income, and loss of self-respect and purpose. We all know that it does not have to be this way. Injury and disability can be prevented from happening in the first place. Workplace programs and duty to accommodate can help every worker find and maintain a productive employment. And I'm sure that as you are sitting there wondering is that this is a very significant event, that one of the first times that I've personally been involved in, that how often do you see where we can get complete agreement between business, labor, and political parties of all stripes, and local and international boundaries, which is a very significant event to be here today. And it's truly my pleasure to be part of this very significant event of the grand opening. So I thank you all for being here, and I'm going to ask my colleague Victor to say a few words.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis heureux de partager avec Ken Newman le rôle de maître de cérémonie pour la célébration d'aujourd'hui, l'ouverture officielle de Pacific Coast University of Workplace Health Sciences. Comme mentionné par Ken, les impacts humains qui résultent des accidents du travail sont considérables. Au Canada, 1000 personnes meurent par accident du travail chaque année. Dans le monde, c'est plus de 2 millions. Plus de 30 000 incapacités surviennent chaque année au Canada suite à des accidents du travail. Tous les efforts sont donc nécessaires pour prévenir ces accidents du travail à la source et pour assister les personnes accidentées tant sur le plan psychologique que physique afin qu'elles continuent de contribuer fièrement dans la société et auprès de leur famille. Le champ d'expertise du Pacific Coast University sera de former des personnes capables d'adresser les enjeux reliés à la sécurité au travail, à la promotion de la santé, à la gestion de l'incapacité et du retour au travail, et bien sûr au leadership en matière de réhabilitation. Il s'agit, comme mentionné, d'un événement unique aujourd'hui. Cette cérémonie concrétise un projet mûri depuis plusieurs années et nous soulignerons de différentes manières la contribution inestimable de personnes et organismes sans lesquels ce projet n'aurait pu se réaliser. Tous nos invités conférenciers font partie de ce groupe, soit à titre personnel ou à titre de représentants d'organismes, de gouvernements ou de leur entreprise. Ils ont fait une différence. At this point, we would like to introduce Mr. Willard Gallick Sr. and a few of his colleagues of the T-Shot First Nation who will offer welcoming remarks and lead us through 2 traditional songs. Mr. Gallick.
On behalf of T-Shot First Nation, I would like to welcome you to the territory. There are 2 nations that share the Alberni Valley. One is Hupajisat and T-Shot First Nation. We're very proud of where we reside. We have a very close working relationship with the city of Port Alberni, the mayor, all the councillors, regional district. We're very comfortable at home, and it has been a long time since we felt this way. And I truthfully say that we're feeling very comfortable as I speak to you today. I'd also like to welcome those that have traveled from great distances to come here and witness something very special to us. And I said it was sacred, and it really is. We used to keep these type of unveilings mostly in-house years ago. And I think that by opening up our world to everyone else, it gives everyone a realization and that we're here, that we've always been here, that we're going to remain here, and we're going to reside and be with all the people that reside in Port Alberni. We want to make sure that we all share the same dream, the same vision of a healthy community. أنا حمشت أتكشت قوات قوحكو سياخشتكشت أيقاقي ماتماس تلاق شيم ناس وآثق يقيو تلحاوت أسد سياخشتكشت ويقب أوشبق تلاق شيم أويه كويم تلاقشت نشك سي أويه ويقاشت لايناس. I just asked them to bless all the people that are going to be traveling great distances to guide them. And what you witness out here, I'm just going to say one more thing about it. It's Ustakid. It's a very appropriate house post pole to go up in this building after I heard the opening remarks from the gentleman here of what's its use. And Ustakid is truly a medicine man. He was a healer. So he's opened his eyes now and he's home. And he will be looking over the people. He'll be watching them. So it's a very fitting post house post that these gentlemen made over here, these young men, talented men. And they are very talented. True? The first song that we did there is called the Hoopta song. It's the First Nation that resides in the valley with us. And the second one is the dinner song from Chishad First Nation.
Let's hear it again for brothers from the First Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, the next item on the agenda is that it gives me an honor and privilege that I'm going to have the opportunity to introduce our Executive Director, Wolfgang Zimmermann. For some of you in the packet, you may have had the opportunity to view his bio in regards to the things that Wolfgang has been involved in, and many of us know that in 1977, very shortly after beginning work, was involved in a very serious industrial accident. He got himself retrained and got involved in disability management. He's had numerous wide range of diverse appointments in both private and public sector on disability management advocacy. In 1992, he received the Order of British Columbia, Canada's 125th National Anniversary Medal in 1993 from Canada's Governor General. I can only say this as one of the co-chairs of the board, is that the tenacity and the compassion and the commitment that Wolfgang has shown is one of the major reasons that we're here today. I know that there's numerous other elements of government and individuals that we'll talk a bit about later, is that in my mind, as I've said to the various board members, that it had not been for his tenaciousness, that when he bit into something, he bit in hard. And I know that Wolfgang, it's been a dream of his. This is someone that has traveled the world, and he basically talks the walk. The compassion and the commitment of regards to making sure that disabled people have the right to return to work and have a life means so much to him. And it's been a true honor and pleasure to be part of NIDMAR and to see this come to fruition. And as I said at the beginning, there's no doubt in my mind that had it not been to a large part for the contribution that Wolfgang Zimmermann has made, we would not have this very significant ceremony this afternoon. So with that, let's welcome our Executive Director, Wolfgang Zimmermann.
Well, I'm honored and I'm humbled. You're giving me way too much recognition than I will ever deserve. But I totally appreciate all of you being here. Some of you having come a long ways literally from around the world. But what I want to emphasize is that this has been an absolutely collective effort. It's been a collective vision. Whether it's our board, whether it's so many of you from all across Canada, from Asia, from Australasia, from Europe, that have been part of this effort, believing that we can do better. I was fortunate, as Ken mentioned, in 1977, when I got hurt, that there was a commitment on the part of the employer and on the part of the union that just because you have a disabling injury, it doesn't have to mean that this is the end of your life, that you end up getting pushed to the margins of society. I was fortunate to have been able to carry on. And what we want to do with this is to ensure that this, and in terms of my situation, it was not an isolated case, but that it becomes common understanding, a common expectation that we have equal opportunities, that we continue to make a meaningful contribution to our society, to our families, that we can continue in all aspects of our society after something happens. Our vision with the university is to take that development to a whole new level of knowledge and educational development, that we understand and recognize that return to work is one part of this equation and something that we're working on very hard, but that the workplace of the future requires an integrated approach, that the policymakers of the future require an integrated approach which looks at prevention, which combines prevention with all aspects of health promotion, with return to work, and all elements of rehabilitation, so that collectively we will build new knowledge and new research that will help prevent injuries, prevent illnesses, and ultimately reduce the number of individuals that acquire a disabling condition and then be forced to undergo significant steps in order to carry on and go back to work. So our vision is something that we have to date created the foundation that future generations can build on. And certainly from my perspective, what has been most gratifying, as Ken mentioned, has been the unanimous consensus across all stakeholders in our societies, that we were able to bridge the political divide, that we are able to bridge and reach common consensus between employers and workers, and that this is truly a global effort. It's going to be up to all of you, and we hope that we can count on your future support going forward, so that what we have established will also lead to measurable and better outcomes that future generations can benefit from. What we would like to show you now is basically a production that was done for our 10th anniversary in 2004. Few will recognize that, in fact, the history of this initiative goes back to 1982. And there's been a tremendous amount of individuals that have been part of this effort over all of those years, who share one common goal, one common vision, that is, we can achieve better economic outcomes. Most importantly, we can achieve better social outcomes. We can achieve better results for our society, whereby we can ensure that everybody who acquires a disability will have the opportunity to make an ongoing contribution and not be pushed to the side. And with that, I will leave that and introduce you to the multimedia production, which chronicles our development, principally from 1982 till 2004, to give you some understanding of what this initiative is all about and where its history and roots lie, namely better outcomes for those who've had the misfortune of suffering, an unfortunate incident. So thank you very much for that, and we'll let the show run.
It began as a dream, a vision of a world where a disabling job injury would no longer mean poverty and misery, but a quick return to productive life. 1982, Port Alberni, British Columbia. A small group of disabled forestry workers had the audacity to challenge the status quo. Their premise was simple: people need to work. If they're separated from that work by a disabling injury, it's not acceptable to pension them off, however compassionate that might appear. There must be a system for returning them to work. Some essential keys emerged. The focus of change must be the workplace itself, and collaboration of labor, management, and government would be crucial. A new model began to take shape. A cooperative plan for getting injured workers back to their jobs, even if the disability was permanent. The model was tested in the workplace, and it became clear that something special was happening. Instead of being put out to pasture and becoming a drain on the economy, injured employees were restored as productive citizens, supporting their families and paying taxes. And employers found that retaining valued workers actually saved them money. The design was in place, a new style of disability management. But there was much to learn. The Disabled Forestry Workers Foundation consulted with industry, labor, and government, with educators, providers, and injured workers themselves. They explored the experiences of other countries in dealing with workplace injury. Alliances were established with Germany, Australia, and the United States. In 1992, prominent people from those three countries were invited to Vancouver for a seminar called The World at Work. It was part of Independence 92, an international congress on disability. The seminar was a sharing of information on the concept of return to work. It was a major boost to the Foundation's faith in its concept. But they still lacked a profile. They needed the attention of those who could move things forward. It was time for the little foundation in Port Alberni to become a force to be reckoned with. Enter NIDMAR. The National Institute for Disability Management and Research opened its doors in October 1994. It was a low-key event, but filled with promise. Leaders of industry, labor, and government were present, as were members of the original forestry workers group and some newer international friends. To ensure long-term financial stability, NIDMAR established an endowment to produce operating income. Sponsors included major corporations, unions, and governments. The level of support was an indication of the respect the Institute already commanded. NIDMAR took up modest premises in a college in Port Alberni and focused squarely on the task at hand: to reduce the human, social, and economic costs of disability to workers, employers, and society as a whole. With a proven model for returning injured employees to work, NIDMAR set about selling the idea. The key was education. Conferences, symposiums, and seminars were held to bring the disability management model to a wide audience of employers, workers, government officials, and healthcare professionals. There was skepticism, to be sure. What's in it for me was a common theme. But the case was a powerful one. Employers could save a lot of money, governments could collect taxes instead of paying benefits, and most important, disabled workers would get their lives back. Win, win, win. As demand grew, NIDMAR established a training program for disability management coordinators, the linchpin of the NIDMAR workplace model. That soon led to a UBC certificate program in disability management. Meanwhile, the Institute's vigorous board of directors adapted to NIDMAR's evolving constituency, and global relationships were maintained through NIDMAR's International Advisory Council, a forum for high-level exchange of ideas with members from Canada, New Zealand, Germany, Australia, and the United States. In 1995, those international ties paid off handsomely when the government of Germany awarded NIDMAR the rights to Rehadat, a leading-edge database on disability management. Rehadat Canada would prove to be an important tool in managing return-to-work challenges. By 1996, there were signs of a shift in attitudes towards disability management. As the rewards of early intervention and return to work became known, acceptance increased. DM principles appeared at the bargaining table. Workers' compensation boards were also taking notice of NIDMAR's claims. Better outcomes for disabled workers were clearly to everyone's advantage. On the research front, university studies commissioned by NIDMAR showed conclusively that where return-to-work programs were in place, disability costs, WCB premiums, and lost work time were sharply reduced. NIDMAR was on the right track, but there was a long way to go. As 1997 began, the pace at the Institute was accelerating. The intensive 6-week certificate program in disability management was operating at full steam, and graduates were achieving substantial results in the workplace. Then came another important breakthrough, an agreement with the Workers' Compensation Board of Alberta for use of NIDMAR certificate program curriculum in 2 Alberta colleges. It was a definite tactical shift for the WCB, focusing on workplace partnerships. And other WCVs nationwide were watching. 1998 was a defining year for NIDMAR. In May of that year, the Institute signed a groundbreaking agreement with the International Labour Organization, an agency of the United Nations based in Geneva. The agreement called for NIDMAR to develop the first code of practice in disability management. The auspicious signing ceremony was held in the rotunda of the British Columbia Legislature, witnessed by the BC Premier and the Federal Human Resources Minister. It was a vindication of all the Institute had worked for and stood for, and a measure of its credibility. The little institute in Port Alberni had stepped into the international spotlight. But NIDMAR was also spreading its wings at the national level. The Insurance Corporation of British Columbia signed an agreement to license the Institute's DM certificate program for delivery through BC educational institutions. Their goal was to reduce the staggering costs of compensation to injured motorists. Across the country, the giant Workplace Safety and Insurance Board of Ontario, also impressed by NIDMAR's expertise, agreed to license the disability management model and training curriculums in Ontario. It was a major step forward. 1999. With important partnerships being formed across the country, it was time for NIDMAR to strengthen its national presence by opening an office in Ottawa. And the landmark agreement with WSIB made it a reality. It was a happy occasion and a significant development, but it was just a prelude to the undisputed highlight of the year, the release of Canada's first occupational standards for the practice of disability management. Like many NIDMAR projects, it was a partnership with Human Resources Development in Ottawa. It was a huge achievement, the result of rigorous consultation with labor, business, government, and many other stakeholders across Canada, including people with disabilities. The standards define two key functions: Certified Return to Work Coordinator and Certified Disability Management Professional. The next step will be the development of certification exams. A new century, and for NIDMAR, new challenges and new triumphs. During the year, the Institute signed agreements with three major organizations: the powerful Federation of Workers' Compensation Boards in Germany, TNO Work and Employment in the Netherlands, and the Rehab Group of Dublin, Ireland. These accords called for a sharing of NIDMAR's growing capability in DM education, occupational standards, and codes of practice. The new alliances were exciting evidence of the Institute's potential as an international leader in disability management development. Further proof came in Geneva, when Canada's Labour Minister officially handed NIDMAR's newly developed Code of Practice to the Director General of the ILO, providing the structure for the ILO's International Code. In the fall of 2000, NIDMAR broke more new ground with the first National Awards of Excellence in Disability Management at the Chateau Laurier in Ottawa. The awards honored organizations and individuals who had shown exemplary leadership and better outcomes with return-to-work programs across the nation. It was a grand affair, complete with celebrity guests, and it gave NIDMAR a new visibility, a new avenue for raising public awareness of DM issues. The Institute's strength has always been people, their devotion to the concept, and their willingness to make the effort. Speaking engagements take NIDMAR representatives anywhere that people will listen to their case. Conferences, big and small, thrash out policy through long days and weeks, all moving forward towards the twin goals of restoring lives and reducing costs. The year 2001 was rich in achievement. In Ottawa, the second National Symposium on Disability Management highlighted the growing cost of stress in the workplace. But at center stage in 2001 was the final act of a 3-year drama in which NIDMAR played a pivotal role. In Geneva, the ILO unveiled its Code of Practice on Managing Disability in the Workplace. It was a coup for the Institute, and gratifying to see how the code embraced NIDMAR's principles of consensus and return to work. 2001 also brought another long-time NIDMAR project to maturity, the Disability Management Audit Tool. It was developed as a means of analyzing the effectiveness of DM programs in dealing with workplace injury. But good ideas can't be restrained by national borders. NIDMAR has always reached out to others around the world to study their methods and to share its own. Common goals have emerged and valuable friendships formed. As 2002 dawned, these global connections were about to bear fruit in remarkable ways. The crown jewel of the year was the first ever International Forum on Disability Management. 400 delegates from 10 countries descended on Vancouver for 3 days of intensive discussion of DM developments. The forum was an amazing accomplishment. 10 years earlier, NIDMAR had been just a gleam in the eyes of a group of pioneers. Now it was an acknowledged leader in DM issues, and the world was paying attention. A highlight of the forum was the second National Awards of Excellence in Disability Management, another salute to the accomplishments of DM practitioners and innovative programs across the country. The international audience brought an extra dimension of pride and prestige to the event. Education has always been a cornerstone of NIDMAR. Another high watermark was achieved in 2002 with the launch of a graduate program in disability management at the University of Northern British Columbia. Meanwhile, the Institute's original DM certificate program continued to extend its reach to educational institutions across the country, as well as being available online. Next, another exciting step forward: certification. Now, DM practitioners would have to pass intensive examinations to hold one of the 2 professional designations: Certified Return to Work Coordinator and Certified Disability Management Professional. For labor and industry, that brings the assurance of being in qualified hands. For the DM professional, it means new credibility and portability for the profession. And for the injured worker, it promises the level of care they deserve. As 2003 began, senior officials from Canada, Germany, the Netherlands, Australia, and the United States were creating a new organization, the International Disability Management Standards Council. Its purpose was to bring quality assurance to the process by maintaining the values, outcomes, and principles of disability management. International acceptance of the certification standard and audit tool has been swift. The Federation of Workers' Compensation Boards in Germany was quick to license these powerful DM instruments. In September 2004, the second International Forum on Disability Management was held in Maastricht, in the Netherlands. Again, the focus was on the leading edge of a rapidly widening DM universe. The forum was a resounding success. The 2006 event will be in Brisbane, Australia, and in 2008, Germany will be the host. It's hard to guess how many countries will be on board by then, but NIDMAR will be there. It's now 10 years since NIDMAR's birth. It's been an odyssey of phenomenal progress, unimaginable a decade ago. Consider the record. Disability management is now guided and promoted by an international code of practice. It is practiced at demanding occupational standards by internationally certified professionals. It is taught through degree programs now spreading to universities around the world. And it is celebrated through awards of excellence and high-level international forums, which are bringing DM values to a new level of public prominence. And NIDMAR, with the extraordinary help and encouragement of its friends, was and is at the driving heart of these singular achievements. The little institute from Port Alberni has always had a vision. That vision has been nurtured by those who not only dared to dream, but had the courage, creativity, and tenacity to fight for those dreams and make them come true. Many of them have. Hundreds of individuals and organizations have contributed to the birth, growth, and maturing of Nidmar. Some are no longer with us, but their contribution lives on. They and you have taken part in a movement that is destined to literally change the world. But it's important to remember that Nidmar is not an end in itself, nor is it a monument to anyone's ego. It's a trigger, a catalyst, a vehicle for getting things done. The real effort comes from the hearts and minds of people all over the world. People who believe that ours is a just cause and care enough to do something about it. For every familiar face seen in these past few minutes, there are 10 more working and contributing to the effort. We thank them all. Disability management is on the move on a global scale. That glow you see on the horizon is a world where workplaces will welcome not only workers injured on the job, but all people with disabilities. The future holds promise, but Nidmar must continue the battle. We've paused here at the 10-year mark just long enough to catch our breath and give ourselves a pat on the back. Now, it's time to move on.
So it's already 7 years old, and we can see that a lot of things happened since. Thank you, Wolfgang, for your keynotes. Thank you for introducing the video, and I can tell you I've been working with you for the last 10 years, and you really, really deserve all the recognition that have been mentioned to you. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. James Lunny, Member of Parliament for Nanaimo, Alberni. Dr. Lunny has been supportive of this initiative for many years, understanding as a chiropractor the impact that disabling injuries and illnesses can have on individuals. He was instrumental in assisting for obtaining the funding support from the Department of Western Economic Development, which allowed us to produce preliminary business and academic plan, as well as architectural drawings. Of course, it was also key to obtaining the funding support under the Knowledge Infrastructure Program, which ultimately was critical for this university's development to proceed. So please welcome Dr. James Lunny.
Well, I'd like to thank our distinguished co-chairs for their part in today's activities, and Executive Director Wolfgang for that, those remarks, and for that review from Nidmar. What was described as an odyssey, I would describe as an epic journey, began here in Port Alberni, and with the establishment of the building and facility here today, has come home to roost here with many international partners. Minister Cadieux, Honorable Horst Gunther, distinguished international guests, another MLA here with us today. I'm sorry, I get your name straight. We have Mayor McRae here and members of the council and many international visitors from business, from labor, from across the nation. I welcome you all, and it's a great pleasure to be here with you today. I'm bringing greetings today on behalf of the Minister of Labour, the Honourable Lisa Raitt, and on behalf of Minister of Science and Technology, the Honourable Gary Goodyear, whose office was responsible for the Knowledge Infrastructure Program. The Government of Canada recognizes the unique and leading role of the National Institute for Disability Management and Research. We heard that name NIDMAR go by so many times in the video. Affectionately known as NIDMAR. We recognize NIDMAR for the establishing better procedures to prevent and manage workplace injuries. It was pioneering work. It took place over many decades, and it has grown with international dimension and led to the establishment of this great new facility and institution. As part of our economic action plan, the Knowledge Infrastructure Program invested more than $2 billion in Canada's universities and colleges. And it's notable that of some 538 facilities across the country that received federal funding, this Pacific Coast University of Workplace Health Sciences is one of only 3 non-public institutions to receive federal funding. Now let me assure you, ladies and gentlemen, today that the absence of a federal minister for this auspicious occasion is purely a function of timing of the event and the distance between the national capital and our physical location today. For the benefit of our international visitors, we had a very short spring session following a May election in Canada, and the government is in full gear-up mode right now for the fall session. Almost all of our ministers are involved in cabinet committee meetings today and tomorrow, leading up to our caucus meeting that I'll be heading out to tomorrow. Across the country, there have been many ribbon cuttings and local celebrations in recent months, and more to come as the natural outcome of our unprecedented investments over the past 2 years to bring our economy through a period of worldwide economic turmoil. Today's celebration is unique in many ways. The groundwork was laid over decades of dedicated focus in seeking better ways to manage workplace injuries and ensure optimal outcomes for the sake of the workers in the workplace. It's a file that brings together industry leaders, labor, government, and academia. And now, for the first time in Canada, and I believe in the world, we have a degree-granting institution of higher learning dedicated to advancing the pursuit of excellence in workplace health sciences. There are many aspects of this epic journey that I'll leave for others to tell. However, just a few of the milestones along the way were securing funding for business planning and curriculum development, architectural planning, and then how the province moved in order to, at a very key time, to provide a legislative foundation for the institution. And I'd say hats off to MLA Ron Cantillon, who led this initiative, and I think I spotted MLA Scott Fraser back here, who also participated tremendously in that initiative. There was the establishment of international credentialing organization that's been mentioned. And when the word shovel-ready was the operative word for securing federal funding during the Economic Action Plan, hats off to Mayor McRae and other council members here today for moving very quickly and decisively to provide a land base to bring this institution home to the place where an epic journey began. Bringing all this to pass was no small undertaking. Years and years of meetings, negotiation, advocacy, relationship building, and pursuing a vision. Behind it all, a force of determination, knowledge, experience, and commitment. An individual who's inspired many, who was supported by like-minded individuals and key players, first locally, and then nationally, and in recent years, internationally. And some of you are here today. Wolfgang Zimmermann, today is your day. I salute your many years of dedication. It's my hope, and I'm sure I speak for many here and around the world, that this new facility and institution will secure a platform for the work that you have championed, improving the workplace, advancing workplace health sciences, optimizing outcomes for workers, and building a better future. On behalf of all of those who benefited over the years and those who will benefit in the future and their families, I'd like to say a special thank you to the leaders from industry and labor who've backed this work for years, and to Wolfgang and all who've labored to bring us to this day. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Congratulations, and well done.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lunny. Now let me introduce the Honorable Stéphanie Cadieux, Minister of Labour, Citizen Services and Open Government for the province of British Columbia. It's been mentioned the provincial government was key in establishing the statutory first building block for the university, allowing Ron Cantlin, a Liberal member of the Legislative Assembly for Parksville-Qualicum, it's been mentioned, to introduce a private bill allowing for the statutory establishment of the university. This was also supported by Scott Fraser, NDP MLA for Alberni Pacific, and ultimately resulted in unanimous consent from every member of the BC legislature. So please welcome Ms. Cadieux.
Thank you very much. Is my mic working? Yep, okay. So I'm very pleased to be here, and I'd like to bring greetings on behalf of Premier Christy Clark, who wasn't able to be here today, and I'm sure is jealous that she didn't have that lovely flight over with me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. It is wonderful to see the culmination of what I know has been so many years of work. As mentioned, I'm joined by a couple of colleagues from the legislature, Scott Fraser and Raj Chauhan, and thank you for being here. I know that you've been great supporters of this project as well. With a focus on workplace health, this university's programs are certainly going to impact communities in British Columbia and around the world. Creating and maintaining jobs is a priority for British Columbia's government. But in order to maintain jobs, we first have to make sure that workers are safe in their positions. Worker safety is a priority for this government because we know, first and foremost, our people are our most vital natural resource. Their presence and their absence in the workforce can have a big impact on the province's economy and certainly on the economies of their homes. We're proud that in British Columbia, we currently have the lowest workplace injury rate in our history. But injuries and illnesses still happen, and they don't always happen at work. There are costs and challenges that result from these injuries. The economic costs to the workers themselves, to their employers, and to their co-workers in society. And the social and psychological challenges that are a part of overcoming any disability and returning to the job. And that's why we need to educate our employers and our workers about how to be safe in the workplace. Should an injury occur, we also need to make sure they know how to manage that disability and how not to let that disability stand in the way of a return to work and a return to life. Becoming leaders in this regard is our responsibility as legislators, as regulators, and as educators. This university can become the first in the world to take an integrated approach to workplace health sciences. Instead of offering credentials that focus on the topics in isolation, PCU plans to integrate them all together: occupational health and safety, disability management leadership, health promotion and rehabilitation, and return to work strategies. The return to work strategies is a point I'd like to touch on personally. When accidents happen, as I know all too well personally, the first goal is getting healthy. The second goal, and beyond that, is getting back to life. And life for anyone includes school, it includes hobbies, and it includes work. Nobody wants to watch life pass them by. Being back at work is what anybody would want for themselves and for their family. And There were a number of former colleagues in that video, and some here in the audience today. In my former life with the BC Paraplegic Association, I saw all too well firsthand what an impact an injury can have on a person's life, both positive and negative, and how much support and effort must go in to rebuilding a life after a serious injury. Pacific Coast University for Workplace Health Sciences, although a mouthful, has the potential to be an international leader in education and research. So I'm very pleased today to tell you that to help you do that, WorkSafe BC will be providing a $250,000 grant for PCU to help establish a research chair focusing on occupational health and safety. This chair will also be tasked with establishing peer-reviewed scientific journals in workplace health. I'd like to just acknowledge Dave Anderson, who's here from WorkSafe BC as well, for his cooperation in this, because I think it's a vital contribution. I know the journal will ultimately contribute to healthier workplaces in British Columbia, and that's something we certainly all want. So in closing, let me commend you, especially you, Wolfgang, for giving so much of your time and effort to the development of this university. The first time I heard your name was about, 10 or more years ago, and I knew you were working on this project, and it's certainly it goes without saying, without you and your perseverance, this would not have come to fruition. So on behalf of the province of British Columbia and myself personally, I do wish you very much success in the future. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Minister, for that powerful message, and again, thank you for that very kind grant of the $250,000, which I'm sure will be put to good use. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you at this time the Mayor of Port Alberni, Ken McCrae. Ken McCrae, with his council and the support of senior staff of the City of Port Alberni, contributed the final building block to this very significant effort, namely the donation of the 3.5 acres of land which allowed this proposal to proceed as shovel-ready and subsequently meet the deadline of March 31st of 2009. Please welcome the Mayor, Ken McCrae.
Good afternoon, everybody. First thing I'd like to do is welcome our guests, especially our guests from Germany. Our city 4 years ago went to the Olympics in China with our Olympic team. We had the largest delegation of any country in the world. We are going to the Olympics in London, and we're going to stop in Germany. So we'll definitely be stopping you, and we'll be hitting up for some kind of treat. We don't know yet, but we'll make that when it happens. So I'm just giving you forewarning what's going to happen next August when we all go to London to the Olympics, and then we're going to Germany, we're going to Switzerland, Austria, and we're taking our young people with us. So it's going to be a great treat for our community. A special welcome to all our politicians from far and wide. It's good to see so many politicians in one room. I'd like to introduce the freeman of our city, Jillian Trumper, who was our mayor for 15 years when a lot of things took place in this community and was an MLA for a number of years. My councillor, Councillor Solda, Councillor Whiteman, Councillor Douglas, thank you very much for making it possible for the city to donate this land. It was a real pleasure. So I come out of the labor movement. I was in the labor movement for 22 years in our union. In disabilities, my dad was a faller. So you can imagine how many injuries happened in the bush in them days. My dad was on the springboards with my uncle. And so we used to hear about a lot of injuries, and we never thought what happened to our dad. And then one day, my dad got hurt really bad in the bush. He got his nose broken, his teeth all knocked out, both his arms broken by what they called a widowmaker. It came down and hit him. And so he was off work for a couple of years. So we seen that when we were very young. And when I first started out in the paper mill, I was a paper maker. I wanted to get into the trades. It was hard to get into the trades that days, even though we had 500 tradesmen working in the pulp mill. So we had a huge operation here, 1,500 men. We had 6,000 people in the trade union movement in this community. So it was really huge. And I remember my first day at the table with all the tradesmen along, first thing I noticed, there were very few Canadian tradesmen. They were all from somewhere else. So it was a lot of interesting comments what they had. With a name like McRae, the first comment was, well, we got another oatmeal savage on our crew. So I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting, especially for all the Scotchmen on the crew. And so I thought, the next thing I noticed was all the tradesmen who had fingers missing, and the tradesmen who had part of their hands missing, and the tradesmen who only had one leg or half a leg. They shouldn't have been tradesmen. We had nothing else for them to do. So we did a lot of work in that area, and you've seen the photographs and the pictures came up, most of them people I noticed. And I'm really proud that, this really took part in our community. And we see some of the people here, of Dave Thane here. I don't know if Dave Thane, there he is, Dave Thane. He was president of our union at the time when we got it going. Brian Payne, we see many pictures of Brian Payne. Brian Payne was rep of our union here for 12 years when we started going. Peter Laurie, I don't think he made it today. He was a representative from McMillan Bodell. McMillan Bodell, if you look at it today, was a fantastic company for the things that they did. They were so far out in front. They started the Employee Family Assistance Program in the pulp and paper industry throughout this country, and I really give them credit. I knew Ray Smith, who was the president of McMillan Rodell, because I was one of the people who engineered the Employee Family Assistance Program, not only here but across the country when I was involved in the union. And I see the people from here with Wolfgang and all the other people, all of us who work for McMillan Bodell, and see there's far thinking, and Peter Laurie especially. Peter Laurie was involved in everything. Earl Foxcroft, who's not with us today. Henry Nadergaard, who was a member of the IWA in this community, and was a city councilor in Port Alberni. They really looked for the future and what was going to happen. I really feel proud of that. And it really makes me feel really proud in here today to see what's happening here. I also like to recognize the chairman of the regional district, Director Wong. I see him sitting there. And everybody else who made this happen. This is a great step in our community. You want to see anything about diversifying your economy, this is it. It's just a start, and we got great things coming down the road. So again, congratulations, and come back to visit us. We always have this kind of weather.
Thank you very much, Mayor McRae. We appreciate your passion, your enthusiasm, and I'm sure that it reflects what's happening in your community with all of your team. The next presentation, entitled From Vision to Reality, represents a visual progress report on the establishment of the Pacific Coast University, and culminates with our joint initiative with the City of Port Alberni in creating an excellence in destination education strategy, where education for a better world meets the beauty of the real world. So we'll have the presentation. We've already mentioned the important international association with NITMAR, so it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, the Honorable Urs Günther, former Associate Minister of Labor and Social Affairs for the government of Germany. Mr. Günther been directly involved with and very much supportive of our efforts since first being appointed Associate Minister in 1992. He continues to play an active role by being the German jurisdictional representative for the International Disability Management Standards Council. Mr. Urs Günther.
Sehr geehrte Festversammlung, meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren! Zunächst bedanke ich mich für die Einladung, hier und heute an der offiziellen Eröffnungsfeier der Pacific Coast Universität zu Port Alberni teilnehmen zu dürfen. Dass ich auch noch die Ehre habe, ein paar Worte an Sie zu richten, freut mich besonders. Und ich habe das Angebot gerne angenommen, weil ich mich seit vielen Jahren mit dem Institut verbunden fühle, woraus nun diese Universität entstanden ist. Ich kann die Entwicklung seit 1991, also genau 20 Jahre, nachvollziehen, weil ich sie stets aktiv begleitet habe. Heute können viele stolz sein, was hier entstanden ist. Herr Bürgermeister, Port Alberni als Universitätsstadt zu erleben, ist doch eine tolle Sache. Die Unterstützung durch Ihre Stadt gegenüber dem Institut hat sich ausgezahlt. Ich gratuliere Ihnen zu diesem großartigen Erfolg. Ich beglückwünsche die Gremien, den Aufsichtsrat und andere, die notwendigen Beschlüsse gefasst zu haben. Auch die Unterstützung von Unternehmen, insbesondere für die Gründung des Instituts, darf nicht vergessen werden. Sie kennen sicher den Spruch, aller Anfang ist schwer. Und ich finde es weitsichtig, dass sowohl die kanadische Bundesregierung wie auch die Regierung von British Columbia die rechtliche wie finanzielle Grundlage geschaffen haben, dieses Werk zu vollenden. Ein Werk in Form dieser Fernuniversität, das einem Gedankengang eines Menschen entsprang, dessen persönliche Not Grundlage war, die ganze Entwicklung einzuleiten. Am Anfang stand der Wunsch, Menschen zu helfen, die unschuldig in Bedrängnis geraten und in Gefahr sind, ihre Existenz zu verlieren. Disability Management war und ist die Lösung. Ich persönlich habe die Module der deutschen Gesetzgebung hierher überbracht. Und dann stets eine rasante Entwicklung, dann setzte eine rasante Entwicklung ein, die dazu führte, dass heute nicht nur Deutschland, sondern viele Länder dieser Welt die dann hier entwickelten international anerkannten Standards in Lizenz erwarben. Wir hätten das in Deutschland auch entwickeln können, aber wir haben wohl geschlafen. Hellwach für diese Dinge war ein anderer Mensch, der von der Idee besessen war, Programme für die Wiedereingliederung von Menschen mit betrieblichem Unfall zum Standard weltweit zu installieren. Und es ist ihm gelungen. Und um das Ganze noch qualitativ zu steigern, kam ihm dann der Gedanke, durch die Zertifizierung einer Universität das Ganze zu akademisieren. Ich finde genial. Aus eigenem Schicksal Erkenntnisse gewonnen zu haben und für die schicksalsgleichen Verbesserungen zu schaffen, war ein Herzenswunsch eines Mannes, der Unglaubliches bei selbst Schwerstbehinderung geleistet hat. Jeder kennt ihn hier im Saal, Wolfgang Zimmermann. Seien wir alle stolz, diesen Mann an dieser Stelle zu haben. Ich wünsche seinem Werk und dieser Universität eine gute Zukunft. Gott segne dieses Haus. Thank you to listening.
Well, I want to thank the Honourable Horst Günther for not only for the kind words and the support that he's shown, but again, someone that's traveled a far distance and the commitment that you have shown on behalf of disability. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Don Lindsay, the President and Chief Executive Officer of Teck Resources, Canada's largest mining company with over 12,000 employees. Having worked in the mining industry myself and being associated with this industry throughout my working life, I can tell you that it is a dangerous business. While hardly a day goes by without reading about another mining tragedy somewhere in the world. Under Mr. Lindsay's leadership, the health and safety of its employees has become an absolute priority for Teck Resources. And we are confident that this university will greatly assist the company in advancing this goal. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Lindsay for Teck's generous $1.5 million contribution to the university. Please welcome Don Lindsay.
Well, thank you very much, Ken, and thank you to Viatar as well for co-chairing today. I want to say on behalf of my colleague Jim Utley, who's our Vice President of Human Resources, and who's also on the Board of Governors here at Pacific Coast University, it's a real privilege and honor to be here today. The fact that this is the first facility of its nature, I think, speaks to the dedication of the many people who are here today. And I'd like to thank all three levels of government. First, Dr. James Lundy, representing the federal government, Minister Cadieux, of course, from the provincial government, and Mayor McRae. The opening of this university would certainly not have been possible without all of your support. I'd also like to thank Ken and all of the members of the United Steelworkers. Ken and his members have been working on this project since its early days. I think their support has been critical to its success. And finally, I'd like to thank Wolfgang, of course, and all the people at the National Institute of Disability Management and Research. It was your vision and your leadership that brought all of us, government, labor, business, and academia, together to work collaboratively towards improving the health and safety of workers. You know, I'm an engineer by training, and I actually started my career working underground in a uranium mine in northern Saskatchewan, and later in a large open pit mine in Labrador, an iron ore mine. And in those days, you know, health and safety in the workplace didn't get the priority that it does today, not even close. And I learned a few lessons there, and I learned a little bit about why education about workplace health and safety is so important, and why this institution is going to be so important to so many people, to all of my colleagues at Teck, and to me personally. I'll share a couple of stories of examples of why I understand education is important. In that first large industry job that I had working underground, you know, I was a little green to say the least, but full of enthusiasm. I was working with a very seasoned miner who'd won the King Miner competition in Thompson, Manitoba, 7 straight years. We were opening up a stope underground, driving a drift in each direction, and it was pretty high-grade uranium. And as many of you probably know, the way to deal with radiation is through ventilation. And the way we worked was every morning we'd go into the workplace. I would go to the direction where the blast was the day before, and my partner would take the ventilation over to where he was working, drilling off the next round. And I would work all day in an unventilated area and in a high-grade ore zone. Well, at the end of the month, we would get our paycheck in a little mailbox cubbyhole, and this particular month there was no paycheck. It was note to go see the mine manager. And the mine manager wanted to hand me my paycheck personally and explain, because in our paychecks those days, we got our radiation dose right on the paycheck. And he wanted to explain that when I saw my radiation dose, that the decimal place wasn't a mistake, that I had 100 times the normal radiation dose. Now, it turns out that that's only the same as about 6 x-rays in a day, and the issue is you don't want to do that month after month after month. And I was returning to school. People did notice at school for the next couple of years my hair went curly. I'm not quite sure why. And I'm pleased to say that I do have 3 children, in case you were wondering. Later on, when I started working full-time at the Iron Ore Company, with Steelworkers Union, I was a foreman in the pit. In fact, I was in charge of the blasting crews. And every day we used to go down to the explosives magazine for secondary breakage, and the men would be loading 50-pound cases of foresight, effectively cases of sticks of dynamite. and they would drop them off the edge of the platform onto the pickup truck from a height of about 8 or 10 feet. And right beside in the box of the pickup truck, there were detonators and caps and so on. And I would give safety talk after safety talk to no avail, no change in behavior. One day I finally asked one of the key guys on the crew, I said, why do you do this? One day you know it's going to go. And he said, well, it gives me some comfort that if I go, all my friends are going with me. So I said to him, well, just so we're clear, I'm not your friend, and I'm not going. But anyway, the point is that in those days, a lot of education was required, a whole attitude shift was necessary, and certainly, as Ken mentioned, the industry had to go through a whole culture change. And we've been doing that at Tech, leading it with so many people. And the way that we've been doing this is through a program called Courageous Safety Leadership, because safety is a core value. And we really do believe that it's possible to go injury-free in our workplace. We believe in everyone going home safe and healthy every day. Now, courageous safety leadership is truly a philosophy that challenges existing beliefs and attitudes and encourages changes that are absolutely required to change the culture and have a true culture of safety. And this goes well beyond the basics of wearing required safety equipment or following job procedures. It means giving every employee not just the right, but the obligation to challenge unsafe practices by colleagues, supervisors, management, or the CEO. That means everybody, when I go and do site tours, everybody is licensed to stop me from doing anything that they think that might possibly be unsafe. And it's that ability to speak up, to acknowledge deficiencies, to take collaborative action to improve our health and safety that lies at the core of our safety program. It takes courage for people to speak up. And you know, I had this one example at our Fording River operations, Steelworkers Union fellow, journeyman heavy-duty mechanic in the shop there. And he came up to me and told me the story. He had an apprentice. And you're probably all familiar with the type of relationship between an apprentice and a journeyman. And basically, the apprentice must do everything the journeyman says. And this apprentice challenged the journeyman, not once, not twice, but 3 times about a certain thing that he was doing that was unsafe. Until eventually, the apprentice said, forget it. I won't work with you anymore. That's it, it's over. And finally, with that move, he caught the fellow's attention. I think it was very courageous, not only of that apprentice to challenge that journeyman, but for that journeyman to tell me. And so I've been able to tell that story to all the different people, different sites that I visit, and it catches their attention that we really mean it, that people get it, and that the behavior will change. But that's what it takes. And it starts with education, which is why an institution like this is so important. That's why when we were given the opportunity to invest in Pacific Coast University, we knew it would be just a natural extension of our efforts to improve safety. It was also a chance to build on our history of collaboration with the Steelworkers Union. One example of that is the collaboration in our modified work center at Highland Valley Copper. This facility was developed in the 1990s in partnership with the steelworkers and today provides employment and rehabilitation opportunities for workers who are injured or who are ill. And ensuring that injured workers have the opportunity to engage in meaningful, productive work is critical to their health and rehabilitation. It's also critical to the health of our communities that everyone, including people with disabilities, has the opportunity to work. The Modified Work Center has demonstrated that when we work together, we can create those opportunities for injured workers and in the process, build a healthy, more sustainable society. The success of this facility shows both the need and the potential of investing in research and education to better integrate injured and disabled workers in our workforce. The Pacific Coast University will help us make tremendous strides in that regard. And having an institute focused on developing safe work environments and integrating disabled workers back into the workforce will create a center of excellence right here in British Columbia. A center that can draw on the expertise of industry, academia, and labor to train a new generation of people to further embed safety into our workplaces and make sure that the kind of examples that I described don't happen again. With the continued support and collaboration of all of you, Pacific Coast University can make an enormous contribution to that vision, and I want to thank all of the people who are involved in helping making it happen. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Don, for those very kind words and the support that you've given. And let me just say that you'll have my total support to make Tech a injury-free workplace, and I look forward to working with you on that. It's now my honor to introduce Hassan Youssef, who's the Secretary-Treasurer of the Canadian Labour Congress. NIDMAR has been fortunate to have enjoyed not only the very close working relationship with senior officials at Labour Canada, but also been the recipient of critical funding support over many years, which has allowed the development of leading-edge initiatives such as the world's first code of practice and management disability in the workplace development and of disability management assessment tools, and many others. As a key representative of the Canadian Labour Congress to the Federal Department of Labour, Hassan has been instrumental in support of these very highly successful projects. Please welcome my friend, the Secretary-Treasurer of the Canadian Labour Congress, Hassan Youssef.
Thanks very much, Ken. And I want to start out by, of course, on behalf of the 3.2 million members of the Canadian Labour Congress, of course, I'm honored to be here today in this regard and to represent the CLC in this very important initiative. I want first to recognize the achievement of what is before us. Politicians of all stripes have come together unanimously to create a university where the views of workers, their representative, are guaranteed to be heard, along with businesses, government, academics, and others. We have come together to make work safer, healthier, protecting workers, and improving recovery. This kind of respect does not occur as often as they should. We should welcome it. I want to also salute the tireless effort of Wolfgang Zimmermann. His tenacity, his passion, his determination, his bullying tactics, which we've all been a recipient of, along with his colleagues at NIDMAR, Judge Granville, and members of the board of NIDMAR for bringing this to a reality. I also want to highlight the labor leaders who have played a key role. My friend Ken Newman, Director of the Steelworkers, Brian Payne, who's in the audience here today and continue his work from the energy, chemical, and paper workers, and of course, Oral Farscott from the IWA. Their personal commitment emphasized the importance with which labor movement views these issues. Throughout our history, unions have been driving force to improve health and safety, mobilizing workers for workers' compensation and protecting injured workers. It is in the collective agreement of our unions as far back as the 1960s that the first obligation of an employer to find jobs for injured workers and the earliest health and safety committee are found. This history is essential to understanding how we got to this point. The unique governance of this university guarantees that these lessons will not be lost and will form part of the curriculum. Labor's concern about what health and safety are not just about the things of the past. We remain concerned about the numbers of workers who are killed and injured at their work each year. And as my colleague said earlier, it's still 1,000 workers who die in our country on a yearly basis, and those are just the ones that we can measure. There are thousands who die as a result of occupational illnesses. Especially knowing that many of these and more suffer from unrecognizable occupational illness. The unemployed of injured workers and persons with disabilities is unacceptable high and resulting in poverty and is a national disgrace in our country. In order to move forward, we have to make sure that those things designed and those who design and supervise works, from the CEO on the front line to managers and consultants in between, are required to integrate safety and health in all that they do. The CLC and all its affiliates will continue to lobby for strong laws and better enforcement to achieve this. However, lasting change occurs when the lessons we have integrated in learning and practices for everyone involved. Progressive institutions like PCU will make this possible and make this a reality. And in closing, I really want to say that Wolfgang has been a tireless champion to all of us who would care to listen to his argument that we can do better as a country, we can do better as a society in improving the integration of workers with disability back into our workplace. I think this creation of this learning institution will help us all go a long way, and hopefully make our country a better place in our community, and more importantly, improve the lives of working people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hassan, for your contribution. Of course, helping NIDMAR achieving some key projects and representing the labor movement. It's a real pleasure for me to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Joachim Brewer, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the German Workers' Compensation System. Dr. Brewer is a colleague of ours on the Board of Governors for the university and has been directly involved with this initiative for over 10 years. He showed tremendous passion and leadership, courage, by being the first jurisdiction in the world to formally license the entire disability management, educational, professional certification, and program standards through the International Disability Management Standards Council. So please welcome Dr. Brewer.
Thanks, Peter. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the German Social Accident Insurance, represented today also by our Madam Chair, Marina Schröder, who took a long flight coming over, especially to that event, I'm honored and proud standing here at this event. Wolfgang and the others asked me to give some typical German short remarks. That means about 30 to 50 minutes. Or was it 3 to 5? I'm not sure, okay. To tell about the importance that this university has for Port Alberni, for Vancouver Island, for British Columbia, for Canada, I would say for the world. And even a German can try to bring things on a point and say it short. And when someone from the press here asked me, what's the importance of the university here for that area? I tried to answer with one sentence and said, it's a jewel, it's a diamond. I think it's still correct to say that, even that usually a diamond takes 1 million of years being produced and 1 million of tons of pressure, and you made it in a much more shorter time than 1 million of years, what typically would be the German time area to organize all that in a well way. And a little bit to give you an impression what you need and how it was done here, I can tell you the story of a phone call, as I did it also on the 10th anniversary of NIDMAR. And imagine a phone call on one side as a German, and someone tells you a story of an idea of building a university, and the typical reaction of a German is to say, okay, do you have a plan? And the answer was, not yet. Do you have a building? No. Do you have enough money to do all that? No, but we are working on that. And is there a fixed curriculum, certified, and are there some people working in the university? No, that's not the idea. We only have the vision to do that. If you have such a phone call, there are 2 alternatives and 2 ways to answer. One is to say, you must be foolish. And the other way is to say, you must be Wolfgang Zimmermann. Now you can imagine who was on the phone on the other side. And I think all the people here in that room know Wolfgang, and if someone has a vision and wants to achieve something, the best way to come to the result and come to reality is give that job to Wolfgang, and you will achieve in that. There's the second thing I want to mention here. Here in that room, I hope that everyone is really convinced that it's important and necessary to do that work that must be done in the disability management area, also in a university. But sometimes you have the feeling that people think, oh no, we are further ahead. Do we really need that? We are living in a world where people with disabilities are really included. And when you're seeing press releases, for example, about that what's going on in the sports area with Oscar Pistorius, a man without legs is doing a competition with non-disabled people, and they are saying, this is the typical situation where you can say, this is inclusion. So we have achieved all that what we need to be what need to be done. It's not that way. I can tell you another story. of a big economy in the world that is now at the moment on the way, what people are saying, that we have a second Wirtschaftswunder. We have an unemployment rate going down less than 8%, and we expect that it will come down to 4 or 5%. We have a well-established social security system. We are doing return to work since 125 years. And even in such a country, it happens that by decreasing the number of unemployments, it's an increasing number for disabled people in the unemployment rate. And even in such countries like mine, it happens that there's an engineer with high experience, a lot of certification and exams, and usually human resource managers would die to hire such a man, and that man is rejected for 4 or 5 years when he's looking for a job. And why? Why, he has lost a leg, not his mind. Even this is reality, and therefore it's absolutely necessary to work permanently, day to day, on return to work ideas, if you call it disability management or if you use other words. And this place here will be, and I'm really sure that it will be that way, a focus point in the world where people, professionals, will be taught, will be trained, and will learn how we can organize and manage a return to work process. Because this is the way you can fight exclusion, educate the people, and education is a permanent process. Wolfgang, I'm not sure what is your next idea, but I'm expecting your next phone call because it's an honor working on all the visions you have, and it's always a pleasure seeing that these things come to reality. And by that, I wish you a successful day, a working life without an accident, and that we will return here later on in 10 years and see in the film that we see, okay, next ideas are on the track, and the university is that, what I called, a jewel for that area. Thanks.
Thank you, Joachim. Your passion and Wolfgang's tenacity is a pretty good mixture. Thanks for traveling, coming with us today, and we certainly look forward to keeping your contribution with the board as well as the association with your organization. Staying on the international front, our next presentation will be from Dr. Mohamed Azman, who is the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Social Security Organization of the Government of Malaysia, who brings greetings by way of video. So just a short introduction. Dr. Azman has been on the leading edge in transforming the rehabilitation processes and outcomes for Malaysia's 28 million citizens. As part of Malaysia's 2020 strategy, designed to advance Malaysia to on-par status with every developed country, is a clear recognition that simply allowing individuals to remain on benefits following the onset of a disabling condition is not only financially unsustainable, but also a tremendous waste of human capital. Under Dr. Azman's strategy leadership, Malaysia has now hosted a series of Southeast Asian return-to-work conferences and is the first Southeast Asian country to license NINMAR curriculum and International Disability Management Standards Council professional certifications. So let's listen to Dr. Azman.
Greetings to the honored and distinguished guests, fellow colleagues, and also to each and every one of you who are gathered here today for this historical event. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity to deliver a short message today. Disability management in the workplace is a growing professional in the industry today. And with its focus on assisting workers who have been injured or ill return to meaningful and productive work, disability management is an important part of any health and safety framework to deliver social justice for all. The Social Security Organization of Malaysia, who believes in these issues, has implemented the Return to Work program in 2007. And we have adopted the IDMSC professional standards in disability management practices to ensure that we offer quality services to our insured. We have also become a member of IDMSC and we will continue to do so in the development of disability management practices in this region. And the international community can be assured on SOCSO's commitment in promoting disability management practices in workplace and social security administration. The opening of Pacific Coast University marks another milestone for disability management as a whole, and this will continue to bring the field of disability management to another level of achievement and global recognition. I sincerely believe that with the Pacific Coast University and its strategic partners around the world today, the field of disability management will continue to develop and play to their complementary strengths. With this, disability management will become an even stronger force and one which can steer today's society in the right direction. Last but not least, I would also like to inform all of you today that Malaysia will be hosting the International Forum on Disability Management, IFDM, in the year 2016 in Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. And I hope that all of you would be able to attend the forum to discuss further on disability management. Finally, congratulations on the opening of the Pacific Coast University, and I certainly hope that our fight to ensure social justice through disability management does not only end up to this ceremony. Let all of us to continue to believe that social justice should include equal access to opportunities, human rights, and equality in all aspects of life. It is a right that everyone on this planet deserves. We can begin with everyone here to join hands to ensure that such social transformation will lead to social development and sustainability. Thank you.
Well, we want to thank Dr. Mohammed Azam for those fine words of support and the work that he's been doing, and also the invite to the next Congress. Before I do the closing comments, I want to make some recognitions. I know there's been numerous people that I've mentioned, but I do want to recognize that we have many of the board members of NIDMAR that are here today. You've met some already, as you've just heard from Dr. Joachim Breyer. We also have Mike Carlton, who's on the board. We have Judy Geary from Toronto, who's here with us. We have Trevor Janes, who you've seen on numerous videos. You also have Patricia Jansen. We have Linda Nakendrim. We have Jim Utley. And we also have Hussein Youssef, who you just also heard a moment ago. Also, we have some former MLAs. We have Gerard Jansen that's with us. I've seen him earlier. And we also have Jillian Trumper, who I think someone had mentioned as well. I also want to pay recognition. I know the name has been mentioned and numerous photos have been shown on the various videos. The founding Labour co-chair and current chair of NIDMAR's honorary board, and that is my good friend Brian Payne, who is the president of the Communication, Energy and Paper Workers. Also, we have, I don't know if he's here, I've not seen him, Peter Laurie, who was the founding chair of the employer side. He's supposed to come, but I don't know if he's shown up or not. And let me also just say that we have seen some tributes paid to Henry Nedegard. We have with us his widow, Gerver Nedegard, and as you know, Henry was one of the founding board members. We also have with us today, we have Dawn Foxcroft, who's the granddaughter of the founding board member, Earl Foxcroft. I'd be remiss not to mention the fact that the many things that you've seen here today, the work that NIDMAR has done in bringing this element together, I want to say a special thank you to the staff of NIDMAR, and I know that there's some here, and let's give them a round of applause for the wonderful work that they do. I do want to single someone out of the staff, and I'm sure that she probably thinks that she was going to get away unscathed. The fact is that I want to make a mention of Joyce Granville. Joyce is basically the executive assistant to, Joyce is the assistant to Wolfgang. I know she's just at the door. And And I just want to say to everyone, and I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of the board, that for the contribution that she makes, not just to Nidmar, but to Pacific Coast University, thank you, Joyce, for the wonderful work that you do. So let me now bring this to a close, and on behalf of Viator and myself, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say a special thank you from the bottom of our hearts to our Aboriginal people that have been with us today in regards to the significant poll that we've just unveiled earlier today, that it's been an honorable pleasure to be here for this grand opening of the Pacific Coast University. As you've heard speech after speech in regards to many elements of work that has been taken by numerous people, and I think it's something that we should all be proud of. And again, to our international guests, the support that you have shown is second to none. I think this is going to be a world-class university for us to learn from and continue to move, I think, as Hussein has said, that for a better society, and to make sure that we always keep in focus people that have the right to return to work and have a decent living. They have families and friends the same as any of us have. And again, I think we have a fiduciary responsibility and onus to make sure we go. And again, I want to thank each and every one of the board members for their continued support. So I want to close this event, and again, thank you all for being here. It's a wonderful event for us to have this Pacific Coast University grand opening. Upon adjournment, as we leave here, there's going to be a reception in the cafeteria. Safe journey home, and again, thank you all.
We'll do that weather. That's very